I've been concerned with the mixed messages coming from the top of the administration when it comes to what the CCP is doing. And the Office of the Director of National Intelligence has been in the news lately and over the past year, for sure. And last year, they scaled back the Foreign Malign Influence Center. That seems like that would be particularly counterproductive to American interests when we're trying to counter what the PRC is doing to steal our intellectual property. What is your view on the scaling back of the Foreign Malign Influence Center that was intended to take on these threats?
Without having any insights as to how effective it was, clearly on the surface of scaling it back is a mistake. Not only has that malign influence continued, it has continued to grow. And as I gave the example of TikTok as an example of the capabilities of having a platform. But you have the Confucius Institutes, 100, I believe, is the number inside the United States. And understanding what they're doing. Now, I'm not arguing that that ought to be a CIA or DIA mandate, but it should be an FBI mandate. And so scaling that back to me without knowing the details of why and how that decision was taken is at its core a mistake.
Raises red flags to me. Mr. Yang, in your testimony, you state that American greatness was built on the students who came to study at American universities and stayed to build American companies, researchers who collaborated across borders and advanced American science and business relationships. Particularly in the context of academic research, what types of research security policies do you think would be helpful at this time?
Well, thank you for that question. Certainly one favorable development that we've seen is the implementation of what's called NSPM 33. So this is a directive that was initiated by President Trump and carried through by President Biden that really standardized how disclosure forms work with respect to federal grants through the NIH or other federal grants for science and research. One of the problems that researchers encountered was there was a patchwork of different disclosure requirements. They did not understand them. Oftentimes they violated it. And frankly, what we saw were Asian American scientists and researchers got targeted because of these types of violations. By standardizing these conflict disclosure forms, now we actually can get some more transparency as to what is happening. And each university, this is where I would agree with Mr. Shedd, education is important, is universities should be educated about what are the actual conflicts, what are the pain points, the security points that we should be aware of, so that we can address them in a very precise way rather than overgeneralizing. You are absolutely right. With respect to researchers, one thing that should be noted, there's been studies done by the Migration Policy Institute and Asian American Scholars Forum that shows that approximately 75% of all foreign scientists stay in the United States. That says something about the contribution that foreign scientists give to the United States. So part of this is how do we make sure that we keep them here to allow them to innovate and continue to grow our economy.